Welcome back to Boredom Sated. I'm Michael,
I'm Boris.
and today we're discussing a wonderful fictional character, a mythological legend, King Arthur. That's right, of the Round Table.
Oh, yeah.
King Arthur. Yeah, what do you think it was?
And
So, King Arthur.
become a king by drawing the sword. Yeah.
You're gonna go with that holy Monty Python Holy Grail joke, aren't you?
Yes, yes, yes.
so, so, good old King Arthur of the Knights of the Round Table. He who is the creator of Camelot, with all sorts of almost a miniature pantheon of characters that you've heard of in various literature, like Merlin the magician, the
Yeah.
prototype magician, even before Gandalf, and
Um,
Lady Guinevere and
Morgan Le Fay,
Morgan Le
Mor-
Fay and Lancelot.
Lancelot. Yeah.
Yeah. But today we're focusing on King Arthur himself. Now, I
Yeah.
am basing my particular version a bit more on the very first deities and demigods version. In that, he's around 14th level. He's not the best knight at the table, but he is the best leader, the
Right.
wisest, and the one that everyone will follow to hell and high water, to the gates of hell
Right.
itself. So, to
And
begin off,
yeah, and I sort of I mean we sort of agreed to stop at 14th because that was as far as you went, and I'm more basing it on the myth itself.
yeah,
You know, so
mine's on that, as well as it takes inspiration from the 1981 movie Excalibur from John Borman. Uh,
so you really went beyond the myth.
an interpretation that's like, yeah, that was most beautifully rendered. Yeah.
Yeah,
So let's
yeah,
start with good old King Arthur. As far as backgrounds is concerned for him, obviously he's human, but
yes,
I picked the warrior background simply because he's trained as a squire um, in the myth,
right,
and also in the movie, rather. And he doesn't know his heritage at all, at least initially. But he's a squire, so he's obviously trained in obviously how to keep up with the clean the armor, make sure
right,
everything is on the horses, and he's familiar with how to fight. He's shown even after he draws the sword that he can battle. He's not a full knight or anything, um, but he lacks experience. But he
right.
has the basics down.
Right. And I actually went with the royalty because, you know, I went with more of the Disney version. When he draws the sword, he's a young man, so he still has a lot to be trained. So at which point he becomes royal, and Merlin and the rest train him
Wait,
in that.
wait. Does it mean
So I
Sword of the Stone, the
yeah,
anime?
sort of
Oh,
yeah, yeah,
all right.
yeah.
All right.
Well, in the book, actually, in the book, he's in his teen. I mean, in the
Yeah,
mythology, he's in his teens,
yeah.
and even and I think in the movie, he's probably late teens, early 20s when he draws the sword.
Mm,
So it's hard. There's still a lot of training that he needs to go through after the point of where he drew the sword.
yeah. Okay. So for skills, I went with some things are pretty basic: intimidation, um, warfare lore, religion, diplomacy, and society. That pretty much fits
Yeah.
his knowledge.
Yeah, I went with athletics, diplomacy, intimidation, also religion, society, and survival.
Yeah. So as far as class feats, let's see, up to level 14, I went with deity domain. That gives him. I created as far as the god he serves, or he serves. I went with in D&D, or at least Pathfinder, uh, Imadea. That fits the most, I think, most fitting for him. Uh, that's the domains of confidence, truth, might, and zeal. In this case, he went with truth. So he has words of truth as his first deity domain spell.
Right.
Focus. What about you? What do you want to?
Well, yeah, I started him off with Desperate Prayer,
Okay.
for the class feat, which you begin your turn and have no focus points in your pool. You call out your deity and plea, and you instantly recover. And the reason I did that is because Excalibur is such he's clearly going to become a sword ally.
Yes. Yes.
Paladin. Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
So the reason I went with that is because I grabbed a lot of the blade focus spells
Yeah.
because Excalibur. I think you did a unique thing because we didn't discuss it. Where you created the magic sword,
Oh
I
yeah.
sort of gave the Excalibur's ability because he's a sword ally
Okay.
through his paladin path.
Yeah. Well, a little later on, but yeah,
Yeah,
Excalibur is his symbol of rulership.
yep,
Um, and I didn't make it. I made it good, but it's not. I His sword ally ability plus Excalibur makes him absolutely devastating for his level. So it's
yeah.
yeah.
Whereas I thought that I gave him a holy avenger that Excalibur is, but it's through his paladin feats and spells that Excalibur is so powerful.
Okay, makes sense. All right, so the next feat I picked for class feat is Vengeful Oath. I went with this simply because a lot of the other oaths are very like undead and dragon, and I'm like, there may have been stuff around that time, but his is mostly bring justice to the land, unite the land,
Yeah,
stop other bandits and warlords springing up, unite England and Britain, and
right.
it
Yeah,
seemed like
that's
reasonable role playing wise. This would be like something that's broad, like hunt down
right.
and exterminate evil creatures and that type of thing.
And I chose the same one
All right,
because it's so in line with his character
true.
through any vision that anybody has. He's definitely a vengeful oath paladin.
Then we go to class level 4 for feats. Aura of Courage. This is when you get frightened. You reduce the condition by 1. And at the end of the turn, when you reduce your frightened condition by 1, you also reduce the value by 1 for all allies within 15 feet. This is just simply part of the reason he's king. He inspires people.
Right,
And so if, in the face of fear, and in Pathfinder, there are a lot of creatures that have fearsome aura, and not just
right,
dragons, there's demons and undead and all sorts of nasty things.
right,
And that's
right.
the that's the
And
that's the first thing they go for is the that aura hits you. So you're like, okay, yeah,
right,
why get hit by a penalty right off the bat if you can shrug it
right.
off? Yeah.
And that totally makes sense. And like I said, I went with the increase all the blade, so I chose the sun blade because the sword glows, and even
Yeah.
throughout, it always glows, and it gives a rise. And so you get the sunblade devotion spell.
Okay. Then the level 6 class feat, I went with Smite Evil. That's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Um, it makes
Yes.
a devastating sword even more devastating. What more can you
Yeah,
have?
and so did I. I went with Smite Evil.
Yeah. Then the 8th level one is the Advanced Domain spell. Again, I went with Truth, and this one is Glimpse the Truth. This is more not so much mechanical as in it just fits his character that he's based upon um, something better. We could be better. Camelot is based upon it, and that's one reason it fell because of
Right.
lies, because of uh,
Yeah.
obviously love triangle and other things, deceptions. So I figured, all right,
Right.
he's someone who upholds the truth, but it's undermined by obviously deceptions.
Right. And again, just because we only get one selection, your selection totally makes sense for role playing.
Yeah.
But at eighth level is where I chose the Aura of Courage.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So the next one, let's see, level 10 is I picked Radiant Blade. This one is Radiant Blade Spirit, sorry.
Yeah.
And this one is where it just, you get to pick something nice to add to an already overpowered weapon. So this one is no brainer. This one's, I picked Holy for this one. So
Right.
now, no no matter what sword he's wielding, he can always make it. But with Excalibur in hand, boom. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah,
And I did the same thing because again, it's Excalibur is pretty much everything for him.
yeah.
It's the reason he lives. It's the reason he survives. And I went with Radiant Blade Spirit too.
Okay. Number 12, I went with Blade of Justice. This allows you to call upon your. Uh, this is again part of his character, I think, where he's all about the law, justice, and what's best in how a knight should act. Again, paladin would.
Right.
This ability is it's a 2 round action. It's a 2 action basic attack. You call upon divine power and make a weapon or unarmed strike against a foe you have witnessed harm an ally or innocent.
Right.
This then does 2 extra weapon damage dice against the target if the target is evil, and it converts all the damage to good damage if you need to do that.
Right.
And it also you can apply your retributive strike, which a paladin can do as a reaction.
Right.
Whatever it is. So I'm like,
And
what?
and I picked the same thing just
Yeah.
because it's so in line with the character.
Yeah, it's rather easy to make these characters if once you just go with simply what does the character represent, what do we
Yes.
see them do, and it's like this is what they're
Yeah.
going to do role playing wise. And number
Right.
14, the 14th feat for the level 14 feat for class is Litany of Righteousness. This one just requires you to be a tenant of good, which is pretty easy. You
Right.
call upon righteousness to expose an evil foe's weakness. You can cast Litany of Righteousness devotion spell. Increase the number of focus points in your pool by 1. Now, what does Litany of Righteousness do? The spell. It's a focus 7 spell, so already it's a heavy hitter. Let's see. So they basically gain 7 weakness to good, and then it becomes immune to it for a minute, and it becomes heightened for every level by 1.
Right.
Every spell, focus spells are automatically heightened, just like cantrips, to half your level rounded down.
Right.
So this one starts at 7, and just keep getting better and better. So,
Right.
and of course you're doing good damage from other things as well. So this is like, hey,
right.
Now you're weakened, and yeah.
Yeah, and because he's sort of a leader, I went with the Aura of Vengeance, which is when you call upon others to take retribution, you also guide their aim. When you use Retribution Strike, your allies who make strikes take only a -2 penalties instead of the -5. So he makes the people around him better.
More vengeful. That's a good.
Yes.
It works.
Nothing says
leadership the
Arthur like vengeance. He's always.
Oh, he had to do a lot of fighting in the United Kingdom earlier.
Yes.
So
yes. Now the one thing, the one thing I was a little bit disappointed that I really wanted to add was that the human one of the human ancestry feat was Fey touched. I really wanted to include Fey touch because the sword came from the Lady of the Lake, a Fey, and all of that. The only issue with that was that you just don't get anything that's relatable to the mythology. You get, depending on the Drider, like your skin becomes green. That's not Arthur. So I would have really liked to have added Fey touched.
Fey touch. You mean on the piece? Oh yeah. Arthur. Yeah, I guess it depending on which interpretation and what version of this. I guess you could put Fey touch. That I would think more of either that for obviously Morgan Le Fay. Lady of the Lake, or the
Lady of the Lake was a Fey. She was a Dryad.
or Merlin, but Merlin obviously also has people say he's partly demon as well. So
it's got a lot.
Arthur just simply had he had royal blood, but yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely.
It would have been an interesting. If it was something related to the mythology, it would have definitely been interesting.
Are you talking about Fey influence? Level
Yeah,
5?
Fey influence. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay. All right.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
my
So
feats were all basically cooperative in nature. Cooperative nature, cooperative soul, group aid, and stubborn persistence.
yeah, so mine were also a couple the human inspirational feats in line, because he was a leader. He
Yeah,
inspired the man around him.
yeah. He was the
Yeah.
one who, yeah. The general feats I got, um, basic stuff: die hard,
Yep.
toughness, ride.
Toughness. Yeah,
He,
yeah.
during
Uh,
during
and yeah, and
during the
this.
during the end fight of the Excalibur movie, he definitely had die hard because he got stabbed in the gut and pulled himself closer to Mordred while impaled
Yes.
in order to get the death blow. So yeah, that's die hard, all right.
Right. Right.
Uh,
Um, and for the skill feats, I really went with the heavily diplomacy and intimidation
yes,
because diplomacy because he leads the band, and
oh,
intimidation he needs it also on the battlefield.
yes,
And there are a couple of intimidation feats if you do the right path that you can demoralize the people around you, the enemies around you, as
yeah.
a group, not just as an individual.
Yeah, I took that likewise. I did a lot of diplomacy, intimidation stuff, group
Yeah,
impression in the beginning, and then stuff like encouraging words and um,
right.
uh, entourage. It's perfect. Entourage right
Yes.
there. I
Yeah. Yep.
started the hobnobbler thing, but he's a master of diplomacy, I guess.
Yes.
Um, all right, so that is it for the basics of Arthur. I went on to do Excalibur. You made it basically the grandfather of all holy Avengers.
Yes.
Mine
Yeah.
is mine is an artifact. I made it. It's far too high a level for him, but this is about mythology more than game mechanics. It's a level 25 um, artifact, lawful good. It counts as obviously magical, cold iron, adamantine, and silver for bypassing resistances. And it does 4d8 damage as its base. And if you are not related to Arthur, um, or if you try and wield it, and actually in combat, like holding is one thing, because like Sebedivir held it before he threw it into the Lady of the Lake, and he
Yeah.
didn't get obliterated by it, and so did Merlin and various other people. But if you try and wield it in combat, and you're not related to Arthur, the rightful King of England, um, then it starts draining you. So I just until you let go, it just keeps draining you. So
That's harsh.
it's the most famous sword in history. It deserves. It
That
deserves.
is harsh. Yeah.
Oh yeah. You gotta go full. I mean, other than that, he also has like +2 full plate armor and a shield.
Right.
Anyway, so
Yep.
that's
Yeah.
about it,
I
really.
mean,
But
yeah. The
he,
way
with
the way of
Excalibur,
the paladin. Yeah.
yeah, but with Excalibur plus his blade ally, he hits above his weight class.
Yes.
Definitely hits above his weight
Yes.
class.
Yes.
But yeah,
Definitely.
but he's more than his legend is more about the leader being the
The
natural
leadership.
leader
Yeah.
and people following him to a better ideal.
Yeah.
Camelot.
Uh, so that is King Arthur.
King Arthur.
Please subscribe, like, leave a message.
Yeah.
Have you guys played even in King Arthurian role playing game? That would be really interesting. Let us know which other mythological character from books, from D&D, from movies that you would like to see. We can try convert it to Pathfinder.
Yeah.
Well, I'm Boris from Board and Sated.
I'm Michael from Boredom Sated.
Have a good evening. Bye.